And
let's see, the door opens. Yeah,
and in comes.
Bring him in. Come on in. We're live on the internet right here. We've got a microphone for you, ready to go.
Yes, right here. It is live.
Yeah, it's
live
live.
and on mainnet. We don't do testnet stuff. We don't do editing.
No editing.
We do it live.
So we're being reckless.
Absolutely,
yes,
absolutely.
Reckless.
Oleg, Fulgur Ventures. You do well. You see around in a bunch of conferences, right? You do some of the investments in early of these startups. What do you say about the conference so far?
Well, I'm super excited, and great kudos and thanks to the organizers for putting this whole thing together. It's a great amount of people and a great amount of intellectual capital here. I'm very excited. Fulgur actually means lightning in Latin language. So we're kind of like the big fans of lightning, and we're going to have more investors who are interested in lightning. They're going to speak today and tomorrow. Tomorrow is also an investor panel. So I encourage everyone to go and reach out to investors because their interest in lightning is actually growing.
Absolutely. And so, right, you've seen, what was the first hack day you were at, the lightning hack day?
I think that was New York in October 2018.
Yeah, awesome. And so how did you see the entire ecosystem grow from an investor's standpoint?
So we're definitely seeing more projects and more people involved. And from the technology standpoint, we see that technology is actually maturing. So it's easier for new people to understand how to build things on Lightning, which technologies to choose. There are more tools becoming available, and there are projects that are getting traction, like staking sets, Fold, Bitrefill. So there's already businesses that are being built on Lightning, and there are many others.
Oh yeah, absolutely right. And actual like real use cases, like actually people really needing tools to solve problems, and the tools being built and being able to use. I mean, Bitrefill is just a phenomenal service that I use way too often to spend my sats, right? But it's actually really valuable, right? So it's not just vaporware. Do you actually see like that these projects actually solve problems?
Oh, yeah. So what is exciting about Lightning and Bitcoin ecosystem specifically is that it's really focused on solving like real life projects. I don't know, like I can't even remember any project on Lightning that is either not being built for developers to make development better and easier, or not being built to a specific use case. So it's all pretty like down to earth and building stuff that works.
Fantastic. So what are some of the projects that you're really most excited about?
That's a very good question. But very hard for me to answer. I'm excited about all things Lightning, so we're all in. But as far as any specific projects, we're definitely big supporters of everything that creates more awareness and brings more Bitcoin and Bitcoin over Lightning into circulation. With all kind of staking sets, projects, fiat on ramps into Bitcoin and Lightning, and going forward, then projects like Bitrefill and Fold, who are making the next step to the circular economy. And as far as like circular economy, we're like really excited about games that can be built on Lightning as a platform, for both like for payments, maybe also tokenized assets in the future. And there's like a whole bunch of other things that can come up, like Lightning for the Internet of Things.
Yeah, absolutely right. I think this just the circular economy really emerges here out of this Lightning, right? Because I mean, earning Bitcoin, right? That is phenomenal. But then especially like spending it again, right? This entire thing to really have this, this circular economy. And I think payment channels are a great example for this, right? Because for example, the employer opens a channel to the employee, right? And then he pays the monthly salary over this channel. And then again, in order to then balance it out, the user spends the money again, right? So within this channel itself, we have like this back and forth, like bi-directional payments in this channel, where you actually do receive and stack sats, and then where you also spend them and buy your goods and services with.
Yeah, absolutely. We just had like a small meetup for the Lightning excited investors this morning, and we were talking about exactly this thing. So how people can actually earn money with projects being built on money on Lightning,
Well,
and
Lightning is Bitcoin is
Lightning
money.
is money. That is true, and how they can further spend this Lightning Bitcoin and Lightning money, and this project's already out there.
Ah, fantastic. Yeah, really. And especially for then also the games, right? I think this is so powerful because it's not just the games like in the sense of just having fun, but of actually building a monetary system within this entire within the gaming infrastructure itself. So how do you think that having microtransactions with real money, like not World of Warcraft gold, but actual real money that you can use elsewhere, how will that affect the gaming infrastructure in general?
Yeah, so this I actually think that can be pretty disruptive because the digital tokens or like some forms of digital money have already existed in games, but they were not interchangeable. It also was like a little bit difficult maybe to exit and enter, and also to transfer things that you accumulate inside the game, and it was like all not really compatible with one thing with another. With Bitcoin and Lightning, you can really build games that you can have fun with. You can earn Bitcoin, like with Satoshi's games, for example, or you can spend Bitcoin. Like there's a company that has built a bridge between Lightning and the Ethereum game, actually, to pay with Lightning for playing games that are like still built on Ethereum.
Huh.
So it can be like both fun and earning Bitcoin and spending Bitcoin, and it can become one of the first circular economies. And it's in the future, I imagine like all games would be running on Lightning, so everything would be compatible.
Yeah.
You earn in one game, you spend in another game, and then if you want to exit your like assets, you could also trade assets from games, maybe like on an open market, which will also run on Bitcoin and Lightning.
Yeah, yeah. Like the magic we can build with this is insane, right? Absolutely. And so what I'm always interested in is that most of these projects are open source, right? And so the code is out in the open. Anyone can use them free of charge, most cases. Uh, and that always has, of course, the problem of funding for such a project, right? Because how do you pay for the development, which is very capital intensive, to then just give away the code for free? So you as an investor, what are your thoughts on making these open source development projects more sustainable, more fundable?
Well, we all know how Linux developed. So Linux developed as an open source ecosystem, and then there were companies created around different variations of Linux, and like kind of like merged towards Red Hat. And Red Hat is a pretty big company. There are also other companies who built commercial software on Linux. So I think we're gradually moving like between contributing to the ecosystem and accumulating the value inside the ecosystem, and also starting to like accumulate value by creating startups that actually like transform the value from the ecosystem and deliver it to users in form of services that run over Lightning. So I think it's like just a natural way for any open source ecosystem to evolve. We've seen this before, and we can just learn from. We can innovate with Bitcoin and Lightning ecosystem because that has not been like nothing like that has been ever before. But we can also learn from the Linux ecosystem and see how that applies to create value and deliver value to users.
Yeah, for sure, right? And we also see this model that there are companies that just fund open source contributors to do whatever they want, basically. So is this a model that you also are doing yourself with Fulgur Ventures, that you invest one in companies, of course, but then also just in protocol developers, for example, that not necessarily work for a company, but only on the open source tech in general?
Well, thank you for asking, because yes, we do. We're actually supporting development of assets on Lightning, which is called RGB, and we're contributing to this, and also we're looking at other possible areas where we could contribute to the open source development, which would be like completely no strings attached open source development, just being funded by not necessarily Fulgur Ventures as such, but by other enthusiasts that just support some idea. I've heard that it's like a little bit tricky to organize funding for open source development on Bitcoin specifically, but I know that people are working on this, and there are initiatives that fund open source development as well. I also think that unlike Linux, Bitcoin is kind of like bootstrapping itself a little bit, which is another great feature of Bitcoin ecosystem in itself.
Bitcoin fixes this. I really think so.
Yes,
so awesome. Thank you very much for I mean, not just investing in these companies, which is fundamentally important, right? We need to have good entrepreneurs and businessmen finding which projects actually make sense and then putting skin in the game and making sure that they actually get out developed. But then also, of course, for funding the no strings attached open source contributors. Both of that very, very important. So thank you very much for all that you do there.
Yeah, well, we encourage all startups or potential founders to reach out to investors who are actually literally wandering around the conference right now. We cannot find you until you actually go out and reach to us. And for the open source development, we're also looking for like-minded partners to group around the different open source initiatives for Bitcoin and Lightning. And yeah, please, let's work together on this and contribute to this ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. Then, so maybe specifically, what tips would you give Lightning startups or just Lightning open source projects on how they should reach out to investors? Right? Should they have a pitch deck? Should they have a working product or just an idea? What do you think would be a best approach to get attention from investors?
Well, the best approach to get attention is just to reach out and start talking, because investors are triggered by hustler mentality. So people who kind of like jump out of their place and go out and meet other people. So that's probably like the most important. And also for the conference, it's really most important to make like a personal meeting, and the personal connection works much better. And it's probably like the best utilization of the time at the conference is to make personal connections. Yeah, just don't be afraid. Be like reckless, moderately reckless,
moderately reckless.
but also think of traction and what problem is actually being solved. So there are still some enthusiastic investors around Bitcoin and Lightning, but when the startup grows to the next stage, there will be like more traditional investors involved who would be just looking at like the boring things, like the traction and metrics, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, right. Okay, and then so let's say there are investors who maybe are thinking about investing into like startups specifically and getting equity in a company, and maybe they're not yet thinking about why to fund open source development. What would be your pitch for them so that they realize the power of just having these no strings attached open source contributions?
For people who could contribute to funding open source development,
yes.
Well, we are the like back to the beginning of the conversation, like Fulgur Ventures is a fund that is focused on the thesis around Bitcoin and Lightning. So we believe that Bitcoin is a very powerful candidate for a decentralized monetary system. So Bitcoin is the settlement layer, Lightning is kind of like the payment rails. So yeah, I think that people who believe in this would definitely be the people who would contribute to open source development as well.
Absolutely. Okay, fantastic. Oleg, again, thank you very much. Again, how can startups reach out to you? What are the best ways to contact you in cyberspace?
Well, I'm sticking out in the orange t-shirt and the orange hoodie actually today. So I'm hoping that I'm easy to find.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Oh yeah, for sure. And website or email?
It's fulgur.ventures. And yeah, you can find me on Twitter. I just have like my normal photo on Twitter.
Perfect.
It's pretty easy to find.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you very much. Again, keep up the great work and continue putting skin in the game in these awesome projects and making sure that this actually gets built on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for bringing us all together here today.
Yeah, thanks. Fantastic. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.